we go. Historia, Augusta. 11. Fuit etiam. There was even a faction or a party under the same time someone's ruling, or in the same position of government or kingdom or whatever, of descentientibus Sagittarius Ostronius. Okay, we'll just take that all as a blatant absolute. They were disassociating or revolting or disjoining. Sagittarius is bowman, and these Osdronus, this would be who they are. They were, what's that in English? There's got to be a word for it. Osronians, okay. And from the same, so we have under the same and from the same. So it's a faction, and looks like they're having a revolt. And we have a reason, because of the love of Alexander and desiderium. This is when you miss someone, you have desiderium. Which by Maximinus constabat, it was agreed, apudem amongst them, that looks like Alexander had been killed by Maximus, is what they thought, and not aliud, and not otherwise, were they able to be persuaded. Deniqui, usually finally or in short, even ipsi themselves, these bowmen, it looks like. There was a Titus, one from their lot, or one from their group, from Suis, for themselves, sibi, they made ducem and imperatorium. So this group, they picked one from themselves and made him general and emperor. This was a guy whom, Titus was a guy whom Maximinius had dismissed already, and he was now a privatum, he was a private citizen. 3, whom, this would be the guy, Titus, who indeed is it just singular? We'll take it as also, it doesn't look like a both situation. There's no W's in Latin. They circumdeteranted him in purple, so they clothed him round in purple, and they ornamented him, or they ornated him in regia apparatu, and royal apparatuses, royal clothing, and as if they had obsapiarented, they blocked off the soldiers of him. They blocked off his soldiers to him, or so they couldn't get approach to him. And another indeed here, he was invitum, he was unwilling in this, being crowned and wrapped in purple and made ducem and imperatum. So it looks like it was against his will. 4, said hic, but him, I guess it's Titus, while he was dormiens, while he was sleeping, domi suo, at his home, by one from his friends, ab uno ex amicus suis, he was interfectus est, he was killed. This was someone who was grieving that he had been praepositum to him, he'd been put ahead of him or with more power than him. This was someone with the name of Macedonius, and the ablative there, who had prodigated him, who had betrayed him, taking the dative, who had betrayed him to Maximus, and who had detulated, taken eos caput, his head, to the emperor, the proper emperor. 5, said Maximinus. In the first place, he egeted gratias to him, he gave thanks to him, but nevertheless, or however, or but, postea afterwards, as a prodatorem, as a betrayer, he had a lot of hate for him, and he acquitted him, and he killed him. 6, his rebus. With these matters or circumstances, in dies from day to day, he feabated imenior. He became more monstrous. In the more of a ferarum, of wild beasts, which, the more they are vulnerated, the more they're wounded, the more they become exulcerated, the more they become angered or sore. 7, post hac. After these things, he transited into Germany, with all the exercitu, with all the army, and with the Moors, and with the Osnodrinus, and with the Parthis, and omnibus, and all quas who Alexander with himself had ducabated to war, had taken the war. So all the people who Alexander had with him are now with this other guy. 8, et obhac, and because of this, Maxime, especially, or the greatest, secum with himself, he prohibited these auxilia orientala. These are the eastern auxiliaries he took with him. Quod looks like because there are nulli, which is a plural nominative, because there are none more contra the Germans than these Sagittarii, than these archers who are valiant, who are strong or prevail. Nulli expediti, so they're unencumbered and they're experienced, and obviously these are Maximi, the best people to fight contra Germans. 9. Autem. However, or moreover, mirandum, something that must be admired, the apparatus of war. Alexander had, marvellously, some preparations for war, to whom Maximus, it is said, Dicator, had added many more things to it. So 12. Ingressus, therefore, into Germany. So he went into Germany. It's supposed to be H or something in that, isn't it? Trans the Alps or something. Through Triginta, 30 or quadrinta or 40 millia, I guess that's miles, of barbarian soil, and he incenderated vicos. He burnt villages, he abrogated Greg, so he drove off flocks, he sustulat, took up praetus, which is booties, and he intermitted, he killed plurimus of barbarians. He killed many of the barbarians. He reduxated, came back with his militem, his soldiers were divitum, they were enriched. And he took innumerable somethings, people, captives, and unless the Germans, except that the Germans from the plains, from the campus to the Paludes and Silvis to the marshes and woods had configurated, had fled, all Germany he would have redigged it. He would have driven into the diction, that's the power, Romam. So Rome's just an adjective there. Unless they'd all fled, all of Germany would be in Roman power. 2. Ipsi himself, praeterea, besides, he was facibating. He was doing many things, that's neuter plural, with his own hand. So he got in and did some work. When even, and he had ingressus, he had entered into a paludum, into a marsh or swamp, circumventus esset, so imperfect subjunctive means would have happened. So he would have been circumventus, he would have been surrounded by Germans, unless with his horse, his milites, his soldiers had liberacented him. They had freed him when he was stuck in Heritatum. He would have been stuck in the marsh, or maybe there was quicksand or whatever was in the marsh that was sticking him. Habwit he had, and for he had, temeritatis is the rashness, this rashness barbaricae, barbarian or of a barbarians, or for he was of barbarian temperament or something, as he was puterating, as he was thinking that an emperor, even Deborah, ought to use, utai, would use an ablative, would use his own hand always. So that must be a barbarian idea that emperors should use their own hands. Anyway, another deniqui, finally, or in short or something, as if certain, quadam, we're in the neuter, prolium, neuter, naval. We have E for neuters and IS for male and female. So then as if it was a certain kind of naval battle, he fecketed, he made in the Palude, in the marsh, and there's the end, stuck there at the end. He intermitted, he killed Illic there, that place in the swamp, in this battle, plurumos, very many people. 5. Igitur. Therefore, with Germany devicted, beaten, letters to Rome, to the Senate and the people, he misted. He sent with himself, say, dictating. So he dictated this himself and it was conscripted, basically meant it was written, quorum, of which the sentiment, sententia, was this. Female, single neuter, not neuter plural, it's singular female. So of which the sentiment or view of something like that. This is regarding the letter, and there's a quote now. So non possumus tantum, we're not able, merely, partus conscriptus, that would be vocative, to speak of how much fecamus we have done. Through quadrinta, through 40, 50 millia miles, we have burnt the vicos Germanorum, we have burnt villages of Germans, we have abducted their flocks, driven them off, We have abstraximus, we've taken captivos. Okay, so where you had the captive wasn't in there, it was sort of implied. We know now that it was captives. We've killed the armatus, we've killed armed man, and we have pugnavimus in a palude. We fought in a swamp. Pervenissimus, another subjunctive imperfect, which means would have happened. That's what you use for speech or what might have happened. Use these infinitives of the imperfect. So we would have reached to the trees, to the woods, unless the altitude of the swamp, that'd be the depth of the swamp, had not permitted us to transire it, to cross it. So the depth of the swamp had not allowed us to cross it. If it would have, we would have got to the forest. Okay, so here's the daily dictionary word back at the start. The first line was factio. So factio can be a making, doing, or preparing, very rare. Okay, so as we know, it's usually this one here. This is Lewis Short. A company of political adherents or partisans, a party side faction. What else we got in Lewis and Short? We've also got a division, company, or party of charioteers. That's something you might want to know. But yeah, this is the general sort of thing here, and then Lewis Short's got little sentences with plautus and etc. using it. Back to the plot. 7. Aelius Cordus, he dictated, he said that this omnino altogether was an oration of himself. So he's saying that the guy wrote it himself. This is credible for what is in this, that is not possible for a barbarian soldier to do. So wasn't anything very eloquent, as we've seen. We've just gone into places, burnt things, and stole things. So something a barbarian could have done and written about. 9. Qui. Mean a bunch of things. Who or why. So who with par sentiment, with an equal sentiment, he scriptured, he wrote to the populum, this is to the people, but it with maior reverentia, but with more reverence. Id circe, for this reason, adverb, that he odorated the Senate. He hated the Senate, from who he was believing should be contemned, should be spurned or despised, multum, another adverb, very much. 10. He usided, taking the infinitive. He ordered praeteria, besides, tabletas, to be painted thus, ita ut, correlative, so that the gestums, those gestums of the war, those acts done in the war, should be proponide, placed before the curia, the Senate House, so that the pictures would loquito, they would speak of his facts, of his deeds. And that's it for the day. 11. Which tabulates, indeed, post his death, the Senate usided, ordered to be deponide, pulled down, and exorted, and burnt. The end.